So in this video, we're going to be talking about NFTs and what their value is and how to evaluate them and how to wrap your head around it. Because in the beginning, just coming into the space, it could be very, very confusing. Like you're looking at these JPEGs and you could basically, people are spending hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on them on the high end. On the low end, they're spending hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars. And it's hard to determine what the value is. Is it just about the art? Is there something else that we're not seeing here? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to show you what the value is. The second thing is I'm going to give you a bunch of examples. We're going to look at CryptoPunks. We're going to look at Bored Ape Yacht Club. We're going to look at Neo Tokyo, which is one of my favorite projects. We're also going to be looking at CyberKongzz. And then we're going to dive into each one and show you how they created a lot of value. But first and foremost, what is an NFT? So NFT stands for Non-Fungible Token. And essentially what this is a way for people to have digital assets on the blockchain. This is the first time we've been able to do that. And that's very, very important. Until now, you couldn't really own or prove ownership of a digital asset. So for example, if you owned a unique piece of digital art, it was hard for you to be the only owner of it because you couldn't verify ownership. As soon as you created it and sold it or shared it with someone, they can just copy and paste it. But now for the first time, you can put it on the blockchain and we know that such and such address owns this piece of digital art. And it's not just digital art, it's really just digital information. So any kind of digital asset can go on the blockchain. And there's a fundamental difference here between fungible and non-fungible. So something that's fungible means that whether you have it or I have it makes no difference. So for example, like the dollar in your pocket is the same value as the dollar in my pocket. And we can exchange them. And there's no difference in terms of the value. It's like $1 still worth $1, okay? Same thing with Bitcoin. Like the Bitcoin in your wallet is worth the same exact as the Bitcoin in my wallet, and they have the same purchasing power. So the value is fungible. And you really need to have fungible value when it comes to currency, when it comes to things that are interchangeable. And this is really important for utilities. So anything that's a utility that the value is not inherently in itself, but what it could do for you, then those sort of things, you need to have fungible value. Now with NFTs, it allows us to create non-fungible value, kind of like a Picasso or the Mona Lisa. Like, why is the Mona Lisa worth hundreds of millions of dollars? It's because it's a rare piece of artwork. Now, someone could take a picture of it and I could own that picture and you could own that picture and you can Google that picture and put it on and print it and put it on your wall and have a very similar experience. You can hire an artist that will copy the Mona Lisa 100% or 99.999%. They can copy it to the point you wouldn't be able to distinguish it unless you hired a professional. Yet the copy is worth a few $1,000s at most, and the original is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And the reason is because it has some sort of essential value by being an original piece of artwork. That's why the Mona Lisa is worth so much. So it's no longer about the art, but what it means. And so we're now for the first time able to do this in the digital space. And so this brings up another question that's even more important. That is like, well, why would anyone buy a piece of art or anything for that matter for an enormous amount of money, right? Like, why are people spending so much money on items instead of just buying the utility version of that item for much, much less? And so this brings us to a really important point. And that is that how we interact in the world. So as you interact in the world, you can take all the items that are in your life and you can put them in one of two categories. Either there's something that is a utility and you just use it because it's helping you get from point A to point B, helping you achieve a goal of some kind. And an example of utility might be like the taxi that you take to go downtown, right? You don't care if you're in a Honda or if you're in a Hyundai or if you're in a Ford. The whole point is that you get there. Or if you're traveling and you're going to another city, like whether it's Southwest or Delta, like it doesn't matter. The price or some other thing is more important because you're using that as a utility. Okay. Now for everything else in our life, the clothes we wear, the cars that we own, the type of phone that we have, the jewelry that we wear, and so on, is they're items of self-expression. And so then brand becomes very valuable. That's why you see women that spend thousands of dollars like on a Louis Vuitton purse. Like they can buy a purse for $10, but the Louis Vuitton purse is more valuable because it signifies a high value, high status item. And so we do this in the real world where we spend a lot more money, thousands of dollars extra, so we can have items that are expressing who we are or ourselves to some degree. And we're using this to demonstrate our personality, to show people what our identities are about, to show people what we value. And then in the real world, when you meet somebody, more or less you could tell what they're about almost right away. Based on how they're dressed, you can kind of tell a lot about them. The way they talk, the way they move, what they're interested in. You can more or less find community just by the people that you see and the people that you have something in common with. And as you walk, in your everyday life in the real world, what happens is you don't just randomly talk to every stranger. You talk to people that you feel like you have a connection with. And so there's this element of community that comes around the idea of brand. So this is something that NFTs are allowing us to do for the very, very first time online. So right now, if you go online, you can be talking to anybody. They could pretend they're anybody. You don't know anything about them. And that's where you see a lot of catfishing going on, right? You don't even know the gender of the person you're talking to, for example, right? So with NFTs, they allow us, for the very first time, use information, digital assets, art, and so on to express who we are and to personalize and to share some of our values and so on in the space. So now let's look at a couple of projects, and I'll show you how it all got started. So let's look at CryptoPunks. So first, these are the top projects on OpenSea right now. And these are by volume. So you could see how much they go for. They go for thousands of dollars. So this idea that if you owned a Ferrari, for example, it's a great flex. You go out, everyone sees you have a Ferrari, they think you're a high status person. Now, there's no way to do it online until now. Now there is. If you own a CryptoPunk, which is worth about a Ferrari or more, it's worth a lot more now. A lot more people in the metaverse and online were going to be able to see that you have the equivalent of an online Ferrari. And other people can't fake it, right? Because the ownership and the blockchain and all that is verifiable. So this is one of the main reasons why NFTs are so valuable going forward, because essentially they represent our identity. So it all comes down to identity, which is why someone would, in the first place, spend hundreds of millions of dollars on art like the Mona Lisa. They're expressing something about who they are and what they're about. So let's look at some of these top projects, and we'll talk about what they're about and how they're creating value for the people that buy them. So you can think of projects that fall into a few different categories. One is just purely artistic. Okay. An example of that would be like photography projects. So another way to look at it is to look at historic projects, right? Because the reason why some of these artists are such a big deal, like Picasso, is because they did something for the first time. And so the idea that it's something historically groundbreaking is important in art. And CryptoPunks was one of the first projects to do NFTs on the blockchain. So this is what the CryptoPunks look like. There are 10,000 images. And if you were in the NFT space and crypto space back in 2016 when they first launched this project, you could have got one of these for free. So you could have been one of the first people to have an NFT, little CryptoPunk. You could have minted it for free, or you could have gotten it really, really cheap. And now they're not even for sale. You couldn't even buy one for $1 million right now. There is no floor price. That means no one is selling them. And that's because they're historically significant projects. You're having major companies like Visa invest in some of these NFTs because of that. So one way to look for the right type of NFTs is just to look back in time and see which ones are historically significant. Because over time, historically significant projects will go up in value. Now, one of the cool things that happened with the people that bought this project is they started to put it on their profile picture, like on Twitter and other social media accounts. And after some time, being on Twitter, you would see some of the other 10,000 people that have it as their profile pic. And right away, you would start to make connections. And so very organically, a community start to emerge out of this collection, out of NFTs. And it kind of makes sense because like when you go out in the real world and if someone is wearing something that's similar to something you have, you might talk about it, right? And especially if it's community oriented. So like if you have a cross and they have a cross, then you belong to a similar community, right? You have similar belief system. Or if you have the Star of David or something like this, it symbolically represents being part of the same community. And so these NFTs also kind of represented this at the end of the day, is that people that got into this project early, they could self-identify themselves as they're in crypto early, they're in the NFT space early, they have some sort of really good vision because they're somewhat visionary to be able to see this coming. They're risk takers, they're probably in tech or art or some combination of the two. And so this community started to form around this project. And then as the community started to evolve, they started to invest in other projects. They started to identify other opportunities. And this is the cool thing about community, is that when you have people that come together around shared values and shared goals, what happens is they help each other, move towards their goals. And so everyone in there that's contributing gets to those goals more quickly. And so value is created. And in some sense, this is maybe the value of brand. So up until now, like brands haven't really been able to quantify the value of their brand, like on their balance sheet. So they just kind of throw in a number that they think that is the value of their brand. But now with communities and with NFTs, they're going to have a very, very tangible understanding of what their brand value is. And so let me show you another project that's kind of doing this as we speak. And this just launched, and this is Adidas. So they're making articles like clothes and shoes and so on for the metaverse. And they have this little item pack. This is Adidas Originals, and this sells for $3,000. As you can tell, it's a lot more than a pair of Adidas or a closet full of Adidas. So why are they so much more expensive than just the actual clothes that you would use? Well, part of it is that when you're online and you're showing something of value, more people are going to get to see it. So when you do it in person and you have a Ferrari, for example, like only so many people are going to see it. When you do it online, potentially 10x or 100x people can see it. And now these are going to be items that you are going to be able to, or your avatar is going to be able to wear in the metaverse. So as you have this character that's moving around in metaverse, going from one metaverse to another, or from one video game to another, they're going to be able to more or less have similar items that they take with them. And now this is, again, expressing your personal style, your values, and so on to other avatars that are in that space. So this is the Adidas original. So one of the things we just talked about is community and how valuable community was for CryptoPunks and how it kind of organically community built up from CryptoPunks, because people identified and assumed correctly that other people who identified this project were similar to them and could see the world similarly, and then they shared values and they could move forward together in finding other projects. And the next project, Bored Ape Yacht Club, took this to the next level. So first, they created better art with these Bored Apes. The art looks great, right? And what this does is, if you have one of these Bored Apes, it gives you access to their club. So you would come to their club, which is here. It's also on Discord. In order to enter it, you need to have a Bored Ape, and that acts as a pass, and it acts as an NFT. So people have asked me, like, also, this is just a membership to a club? And I'm like, no, because in a membership, you can't sell the membership. The membership doesn't go up in value. Okay? This is basically a non-fungible token that shows that you belong to this group, kind of like wearing a cross or something like this. And as long as you have it, you can come in into the community. So one of the cool things that they did was, and when this project first launched, they were going for a few $100s. They were like 0.08 ETH or thereabouts. And you could buy them very, very cheap. And as they became more and more popular, the price went up. The price went up substantially. Now it's like the floor price is 50 ETH. The cheapest one is in the six figures, and that makes it a very exclusive club. And so this club now gets whitelisted for other NFT projects. So, for example, like anything new that's launching, they're going to go to this community first and say, hey, does any of your community members who are collectors also want to invest in us? They'll get whitelisted. So it ends up paying for itself. The type of connections, the type of people you'll meet is very, very valuable. And so that's why the price of these has gone up. And it's kind of become really popular to have one of these. So, and then here's one of the things that they've done. So first, through community, they've created an enormous amount of value. Second, they started giving back to the community. So if you owned one of these apes, over the summer, they had this announcement that they're gonna had news to share, and people assumed that it was going to be some partnership. Instead, what they did is they gave you a free dog, so you could take a little dog NFT into the club, and you had like this little pet, which was an NFT. Okay, and you can mint it. You didn't have to pay for it; you just had to mint it. And there's only going to be 10,000 of them that equal to the number of Bored Apes. And anyone that within a span could have minted one got it for free. And so they gave you this thing for free. And now these things are going for, multiple ETH. So they're worth like 20, 30,000. So now the community is creating value for itself and giving back to the community. And it's kind of creating this cycle. So the next one I want to share with you is CyberKongzz. And I really like this project. I like it for a number of reasons. So CyberKongzz kind of does something similar is the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and it takes it to the next level. And it takes it to the next level in a few different ways. So again, it's focused on community. It's focused on community that's trying to create value. Okay. And these NFTs, these CyberKongzz, act in two ways. To give you a pass to an exclusive community on the one end. On the other end, they also act as a governance token. So anyone that owns one of these has say into how the community moves forward. So it becomes kind of like a DAO, like a community, decentralized, autonomous organization that's a community. It's owned by the community, and then the community decides how to move forward. And I think this sort of structure, like a community DAO that's focused on finding the best projects, I think this model is going to overtake the VC model. As you have 1,000 or 10,000 people working together and finding the best opportunities within this space is a lot more powerful than just a company of 10 or 20 or 50 individuals doing the same thing. That's one of the cool things that they did. Here's the other cool thing they did, CyberKongzz. And what they did was that if you own the Genesis collection, and the Genesis collection, I think the cheapest one is 237,000, 59 ETH. Okay. When they first launched, they weren't this much. They were much, much cheaper. So the price has gone up. And part of the reason is because when you own one of these, the third thing that happens is that you get 10 bananas a day, and bananas are their cryptocurrency. So let me show you what bananas look like. They go for about $15 a banana. So this little guy right here is going to earn you $150 a day, every single day, for as long as you have it. And I think they're going to pay this out for a number of years. I forget. I think it's like 5 years. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. But they're paying it out for a lot of years. And so now you have this token that's the banana token. And so overall, like this thing is going to earn you $150 a day times 365 days. It's earning you like $57,000 a year or something like that, right? And if you look at the return on investment on the CyberKongzz, you're looking at about a 23% return. And that's just in terms of cash. That assumes that the CyberKongzz doesn't go up in value. It assumes the bananas don't go up in value. But you could imagine, and I think it's fair to imagine that this is going to go up in value because it's creating a lot of value. And then the other thing that I would do if I were them, and they're really smart, so I imagine they're already planning something like this, maybe something even better, is that these bananas are at some point, they might act like an index fund. So as this community is finding out the best projects and they're getting whitelisted into the best projects and they're looking for the best alpha within NFT, crypto, metaverse, and so on, what's going to happen is that maybe these banana tokens go out and start buying other tokens. And then all of a sudden it represents an index. So it has a floor, like for example, these bananas right here, let's take a look at them. Look at the market cap is ridiculously low. It's at $2 million. If they started to do this just even a little bit, this has the potential to 10x very easily. So, and they have this community around it where they can do this very easily. Now let's look at one of my favorite projects, and this is a project that I joined. Now, when this project first launched, this is Neo Tokyo. When this project first launched, you could have got these for free. So they launched it over the summer, and in order to get one, all you have to do is solve a bunch of riddles, okay? And you could solve them inside of a community. You can with other people on Twitter, form little groups and try to figure out what the hints meant. And if you got one, you could have earned a free identity in Neo Tokyo. And then what this identity gave you was a free identity NFT. Now, a lot of people paper handed it. They got this free NFT and then they just sold it. Okay. But again, the value is in the community and what the community creates. And so what the project did next was they released a bunch of other NFTs like Neo Tokyo Land, Neo Tokyo Vault, Neo Tokyo Items. Okay. So you would have gotten these other three NFTs had you held the identity, and the people that held the identity got those other three ones. And then they had an upload day where you could upload them and create a citizen. And so now the cheapest citizen is $173,000, about 42 ETH, roughly speaking. On the low end, it's going to earn you $100 a day because citizens earn money. So, and if you have a vault, you could be at a minimum $200 a day. So you're looking at making about $70,000 a year off of a citizen. And this is going to be there for 10 years. So this is going to more than pay for itself. Okay. Now this community is very special because again, they're focused on something very unique, and that is finding the best projects in the gaming space, in the metaverse, best P2E projects like play to earn. And so as they're looking for the best projects and they're buying up their coins, just by being in this community, you're going to find the best opportunities. And so that's why I joined this project. So it becomes a no-brainer very, very quickly, not just from like an investment standpoint with the type of returns we're talking here, but also the opportunity standpoint and then the connection standpoint. What happened here is that a lot of the top gaming VCs ended up coming in and buying into this project. So you have the heads of a lot of these gaming studios that are citizens. And here's the coolest thing. So Neo Tokyo, like when you hear citizen, like what am I talking about? Well, they ended up buying a lot of virtual land and network, which is a really, really cool metaverse, by the way. And they have like a whole island in the middle of network, roughly speaking. And that's Neo Tokyo. And so it's going to be a digital place where you have a character, a citizen that can interact with other characters digitally. So now you can kind of see the manifestation of how these characters are going to be coming into the metaverse, interacting with each other in a community setting while expressing identity. And so this is very, very cool stuff that we're moving towards. And that's what I look for when I look for projects. I'm looking for projects mostly like in the gaming NFT space that are going to be interacting with the metaverse. And the cool thing here is that it's starting to solve the problems that SimCity, Second Life were never really able to solve. And that is that right now in your everyday life, whatever you're doing at any moment, you more or less have a goal that you're moving towards, right? And you also have things that you're moving away from. So you have fear and desire. And so you're always in one of these three states. You're either moving towards something, moving away from something, or you're just kind of relaxed. Okay? When you go into the metaverse, there is no path forward. There is nothing for you to really move towards. Okay? And just randomly talking to strangers in the metaverse makes no sense. There is no, the same way you wouldn't do it in real life, like why would you do it online? Okay? So with identity, we're starting to solve this problem. By having these virtual avatars and characters that represent what your values are, by having communities come around shared goals and moving towards those goals within the metaverse, I think we're going to see the first manifestations of people having a goal-directed path within the metaverse. In other words, a reason for you to go in there, stay in there, and help achieve your goals, that it's going to help your life in the real world in some way. And like a play-to-earn model totally makes sense from that standpoint. Like crypto games that are paying you to play them and giving you real world value that you take back to the real life are going to be tremendously valuable in that way. So the other thing that's really cool about this is that I think it hints on something, and that is that, when you, and this whole idea of citizens, I think is going to play a part. And that is that when you think of a country, what is a country? Essentially, a country is a group of people that share a language, that share a way of seeing the world, a worldview, a set of values, that share similar culture, okay? And so they're more or less agreeing on what's important in life and moving towards it, okay? Their culture allows, and their language allows them to interact with each other within certain boundaries of what's acceptable and what's esteemed and what's good to do and not do and so on. And then what you also have is an economical system that overlays the entire thing, okay? And so that's essentially what it means to be a citizen of any country. You have these components: language, culture, shared values, and an economic system that ties the whole thing together. And what we're going to start seeing in the metaverse is more and more what I would call the infancy stages of like a small community that acts like a citizenry. And because they have all these components, they're going to have a shared language, shared values, they're going to have a shared culture within this community, and they're going to have an economic model within it. And so very quickly, we're going to see the type of communities that we can create that are going to be able to help their individuals and help the community, and kind of have this like interplay between the individual and the community, the macro and the micro, as both move forward. So that's the cool thing. And I'll leave you with two more projects. This one's brand new. It's basically what we've been talking about. And these are avatars for the metaverse. And you can buy one of these avatars, and they're already really expensive. I mean, like this one's $60,000. And you can take this from one environment or metaverse to another. So it travels with you. They're 3D, and right now there's just 20,000 of them. It's a very, very cool project. I mean, like, and they have so many different variations of it. Let me see if I can go back to OpenSea and so you can see, kind of get the idea of what they look like. Someday you're going to be able to personalize these. So imagine if that little avatar looked like you, and imagine if it had all the items that you value. So you could personalize it so it reflects what you want to show. And that brings me to the last part. These are NFTs for your identity. And what we do is we take a personality test. It's more than a personality test. It also looks at your values and how you see the world, and what goals you want to move towards and what's important to you. And it creates an NFT for you that represents all of that. So, and the cool thing about this is that anyone that wants one is going to be able to get one. We're going to make it very inclusive, because our idea is that it's all about community, and it's having a strong community around shared goals, and then using personality to help people achieve their goals in a complementary fashion. So not every set of personalities is complementary. So it being complementary is essential. And then also having the perspectives of multiple personalities to fill in as much of the picture as possible is essential. And that's what we're working on. It's a community-owned project. And then we're going to have Genesis collections and all this sort of thing, and Visionary collection and so on. So if you want to sign up, it's at personalitynft.com. And when it's ready, you could be one of the first people to mint your personality on the blockchain, which by itself is very special. So overall, I hope this helped and kind of gives you an idea of what the NFT space is all about, and gives you a way to filter it and how to move forward in it. So if you have any questions, just hit me below, and I hope to see you in the next video.